Those crazy Russians, am I right? Or am I right? Hello everyone and welcome to Storytime. I'm your host, Brett Piccone, and tonight we read a few more Russian fairy tales. Oh, I must make a notification here. There we are. Anyway, yes, tonight, like I said, we read more Russian fairy tales. Plus, if you'll notice in the description, I say something about something called the Scary Hour. Now, it's not a full story, but it is an original. And, you know, I didn't think much of it when I wrote it, but looking back, it's actually not that bad. Got some promise to start. And I will read you the start of that. Now, this here is a semi-failed experiment. The reason I say semi-failed is because, well, I realized I didn't quite follow the right, process while making it. I wanted to try making some fruit leather out of cantaloupe. And well, this is certainly good, but it's not leather. Perhaps it needed a little more time. There are certain parts of it that do have that traditional chew of fruit leather, and some that are more of a yam-like consistency. In fact, it tastes a lot like yams. I juiced it earlier and drank the juice. It was quite delicious. I may have to try this again in the near future. Anyway, like I said, semi-failed. I made some apple version. It was good. Hello, Kathleen. Huzzah! And hello, Amber. Huzzah! Good evening to both of you as well. But anyway, yes, I made some traditional apple peach fruit leather that turned out quite well. This one I didn't cook down before I did. I just blended the stuff, added a little sugar, and, well, I drained a lot of the juice. And I threw this paste stuff right into the dehydrator. Some of it is got that chew, though. Maybe it just needed more time. Who knows? Either way, that's not the point of tonight. Although it was quite delicious, I'm enjoying it. Point of tonight is to read some stories. So, first things first. Facebook, Brett Piccone. That's me. Quite easy to find. Storytime, 2 words, exclamation point at the end. That is the page on Facebook where you will get all your updates and such. Then, YouTube, B Piccone1. B as in Brett, P as in Piccone. OKORN as in next, Y the number 1. That's my channel. Click like, click subscribe, and share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. You hear me? You hear me? Ooh, I bumped the microphone. I'm sure you heard that, and I am sorry. So very sorry. Just to make sure it's the correct microphone. Ooh, good, it is working. All right, delightful. I think I have a good balance between the 2 microphones. Oh, and Twitch, if you would like to follow on Twitch, you can. Brett Doesn't Game, all one word. Thank you, Amber, for already hitting like. And that does bring up another point. If you comment, you will get a kick-ass shout-out and a huzzah from yours truly. So please, go ahead and do so if you want me to shout you out. Without further ado, allow us to delve into the Russian fairy tales, shall we? I will start with 2, and then I will read a story of my own, and then we'll read 1 or 2 more. To answer you, Amber, on Twitch, I simply do this. Story time. I do this on Twitch. I might add games in the future, but for now, I'm just doing story time and D&D on Saturdays. Oh, yes, by all means. So, if you would like to give him my Twitch, Brett Doesn't Game, that's where I do this, story time. I also, but like I said, we also stream the D&D on Saturdays on Twitch. So, there's that. If he wants to follow us on YouTube, though, he can do that too. He can do that too, Tube. I know, that was awful. But anyway, let us get started. I'll have 1 more piece of this fruit pate stuff. That sounds terrible, but it is good, I promise. Yes. The first story of the evening is called The Peasant, the Bear, and the Fox. Ah, there's some leathery stuff. Cantaloupe needs something else blended with it. Flavor's on point. Texture. It is good. It's very good. If you like cantaloupe, which I do. So, the peasant, the bear, and the fox. A peasant was ploughing a field. Surprise, surprise. A bear came to him and said, "Peasant, I will break your bones." "No, do not touch me. I am sowing turnips here, and I will take only the roots for myself and give you the tops." "So be it," said the bear. "But if you cheat me, do not dare to come into my forest for wood." Having said this, he went off into the thickets. Harvest time came. The peasant dug the turnips, and the bear came out of the thicket, saying, "Now, peasant, let us share." "Very well, little bear, I will bring the tops." And the peasant brought him a cart full of leaves and stalks. The bear was satisfied that the division was honest. The peasant loaded his turnips on a cart and started driving to town to sell them. The bear met him and asked, "Peasant, where are you going?" "I'm going to town, little bear, to sell my roots." "Let me taste one of those roots." The peasant gave him a turnip. When the bear ate it, he began to roar. "Aha, so you've cheated me, peasant. Your roots are sweet. Do not dare come to me for wood. I will tear you into pieces." The peasant returned from town and was afraid to go to the forest. He burned his shelves and his benches and his tubs, but in the end there was nothing he could do. He had to go to the forest. He drove in quietly. From somewhere a fox came running. "Why do you walk on tiptoe, little peasant?" she asked. "I'm afraid of the bear. He is angry at me and has threatened to tear me to pieces." "Don't fear the bear. Chop your wood, and I will make noises like those that the hunters make. If the bear asks, 'What is this?' say, 'It is a bear and a wolf hunt.'" The peasant began to cut wood. Suddenly the bear rushed toward him, crying, "Hey, old man, what is this noise?" The peasant said, "It is a bear and a wolf hunt." "Oh, little peasant, put me in your sledge, cover me with wood, and tie me with a rope. They will think I am a log." The peasant put him in the sledge, tied him with a rope, and hit him on the head with the butt end of his axe until he was dead. Oh, damn, that was hardcore. The fox came and said, "Where is the bear?" "He is dead." "Well, little peasant, now you must treat me to something. Please, little fox, come to my house. I shall indeed treat you." The peasant drove home. Speaking of treats. The peasant drove home, and the fox ran ahead of him. When the peasant was close to his house, he whistled to his dogs and set them on the fox. The fox ran to the wood, jumped into a hole to hide, and said, "Oh, little eyes, what did you do while I was running?" "Oh, little fox, we saw to it that you did not stumble. And you, little ears, what did you do? We listened all the time to hear whether the hounds were far behind." "And you, tail, what did you do?" "I," said the tail, "threw myself between your legs to entangle you so that you would fall and be torn to pieces by the dogs." "Ah, you scoundrel! Let the dogs eat you then." And sticking her tail out of the hole, the fox cried, "Eat the fox's tail, dogs!" The dogs dragged the fox out by the tail and strangled her. What in the hell? So does it often happen. Because of the tail, the head perishes. Oh my goodness, that is... Yes, good morning by 2 minutes now. Oh, you missed the description of what I'm eating in. No, it is not a Cheeto. It is dehydrated cantaloupe. I should have dehydrated it a little longer because it's not quite leather consistency yet, but it's quite delicious. It actually tastes kind of like yams. So, the moral in that story: your mind will perish if you chase tail. I think. I mean, it does say at the end, because of the tail, the head perishes. It was quite a story, and I feel bad for the fox, because it helped the poor man, and the poor man became a jackass and had the fox killed. Anyway, let's move on to the next story, called Good Advice. Somehow I don't believe there's going to be good advice in this book. Once there was a wealthy merchant who died, leaving a son called Ivan the Luckless. Ivan squandered all his wealth on drink and revelry, and then went to look for work. He walked in the market, and a very handsome fellow he was. At the time, a lovely maiden, the daughter of a merchant, was sitting in her window, embroidering the carpet with various silks. When she saw the merchant's son, she fell in love with him. "Let me marry him," she said to her mother. At first, the old woman would not hear of it, but later she talked matters over with her husband. "Perhaps his luck will be improved by his wife's," she said, "for our daughter was born with a veil over her face and a silver spoon in her mouth." So they assented to their daughter's wish and gave her to Ivan in marriage. She bought cotton, embroidered a carpet, and sent her husband to sell it. "Sell this carpet for 100 rubles," she said, "but if you meet a virtuous man, give it to him in exchange for a piece of good advice." Sorry, important message I need to answer. What's the word I'm thinking of here? Yes, piece of good advice. Ivan met an old man who began to bargain for the carpet. Where am I? He agreed to buy it for 100 rubles, took out the money, and said, "Which do you prefer, money or a piece of good advice?" The merchant's son thought and thought. He had not forgotten what his wife had told him. "Give me your advice," he said. "Do not fear anything before death," said the old man. Then he took the carpet and left. The merchant's son went home and told his wife all that happened. She thanked him, bought silk, embroidered another carpet, and again sent her husband to sell it. "Sell it for 500 rubles," she said, "but if you meet a good man, give it to him in exchange for a piece of good advice." The merchant's son went to the market. He met the same old man who agreed to buy the carpet for 500 rubles, and as he took out the money, said, "But if you prefer, I will give you a piece of good advice. Here is the carpet, give me your good advice. Keep cool, use your judgment, don't cut off a head," said the old man. Then he took the carpet and left. The merchant's son returned home and told his wife all that had happened, but she did not say a word. One day, the merchant's son's uncles made ready to sail across the sea and trade in foreign lands. The merchant's son somehow managed to rig up a ship, said farewell to his wife, and went with them. They sailed upon the ocean. Suddenly a sea monster came out of the water. "Give us a Russian man to judge a dispute," said the monster to the merchants. "I will bring him back." The uncles thought and thought, then came to their nephew and asked him to go into the sea. He recalled the old man's advice, "Do not fear anything before death," and went into the sea with the monster. There he found the sea fate trying to solve the question of which is the most precious, gold, silver, or copper. "If you settle this problem," said the sea fate, "I will reward you." "Certainly copper is more valuable than the other metals," said the merchant's son. "For without copper one cannot settle an account. With copper one has kopecks and pennies. With copper one can also make a ruble. You cannot bite that off gold or silver." "You are right," said the sea fate. "Go back to your ship." The monster took him back to his ship, and he found it loaded to the brim with precious stones. Oh my! And I see a hi from Morbida Dragon. "Huzzah! Good to see you!" The uncles had sailed far ahead, but the merchant's son caught up with them and began to quarrel with them as to whose merchandise was better. They said to him, "Nephew, you have one ship. We have 100. They quarreled and quarreled. Then the uncles grew angry and went to complain about him to the king. At first, the king wanted to have the merchant's son hanged without trial for contradicting his uncles, but later he asked that the merchandise he brought to him for inspection. That the merchandise be brought to him for inspection. The uncles brought gold and silken fabrics, and the king was lost in contemplation of them. "Now let me see your merchandise," he finally said to the merchant's son. "Sire, order your windows to be closed. I want to show you my merchandise in the dark." The king ordered the windows to be closed. The merchant's son drew a precious stone from his pocket, and it illuminated everything. "Your merchandise is better, merchant's son. For that, take all your uncle's ships." He took his uncle's ships, traded for exactly 20 years, acquired much goods of every kind, and returned home with enormous, countless riches. He entered his house and beheld his wife lying in bed with two young fellows. "Oh, fuck." His heart boiled with rage, and he drew out his sharp saber. "Now I will slay my wife's friends," he thought. But then he recalled the old man's good advice. "Keep cool, use your judgment, don't cut off a head." He roused his wife, and she jumped up and began to nudge the young fellows, saying, "My children, your father has come back." Good, good, good. Then the merchant's son learned that in his absence, his wife had borne him twins. How wonderful! I'm a twin. I'm glad I didn't get my head cut off. The next story is called Horns, but we shall not get to that one just yet. And just for you, Amber, yes, you're not wrong, okay? So, there's that. So, that was a few Russian fairy tales for you. And now, moving on. Yes, I am a twin, actually. My twin got all the smart, I got all the handsome. It's a fair trade, if you ask me. I'm just kidding. We're both smart and handsome and wonderful, so there's that. So, like I said, let's move on to the original story for the evening. Which means I should probably drop down the Russian music. Yes, there it goes. It will resume in a little bit. But first, I'm just going to look up general background music because, why not? See that later. Because why not? Oh, this should be good. So, anyway, like I said, original story. Yes, original. It's not a full original story, just so you know. Hello, Grey Wolf, huzzah! Glad you have joined. And Mum, I don't know if you got huzzah, but huzzah! Anyway, the Scary Hour is what this is called. The Scary Hour, Encounter 1. Allow me to change my voice for this. It's supposed to be a bit of a play on the Twilight Zone. So, in tonight's episode, an unsuspecting journalist uncovers what he thinks to be an old man's obsession with murder. Someone once said that as long as there are two people alive in this world, somebody wants someone dead. Little does this reporter realize the magnitude of truth that lies behind this statement. Welcome to the Scary Hour. My name is Raymond Jacob. I work at the International, a global news organization, as a reporter. In the past year, in my time at the International, I've uncovered embezzlement schemes, covered foiled terrorist plots, aided Fairmont City Police in the investigation of the largest drug ring in the United States, photographed and recorded a civil war in Chechnya. You name it, I've seen it. Today, I have one of those assignments that doesn't come with any real information, and that means it also doesn't come with any glory for the majority of us. At the International, every story has to have the potential to blow minds. They wouldn't give us the lead if there wasn't something there, but sometimes that something is hidden a little too deep. I guess the boys upstairs are testing us or something, because everyone has gotten one of these. The face of the news has changed. People just don't read the paper like they used to, and if it's not a 3-line clip on the side of some kid's blog, they just don't care to look it up. They prefer the radio or the TV or the internet. Some stories, though, they just can't be captured by a camera. Some stories can't be put in a paper, for that matter. Not for lack of proper material, but for the lack of space, to be honest. I mean, there are some things that just deserve a book. That's kind of why the International is around in the first place. When the New York Times went strictly online, the rest of the powerhouse printers followed suit or just went bankrupt. Now I work for the only news media outlet currently in print. What sets them apart is that they don't just cover global events that affect the economy, national elections, and serial killers. They don't just get the stuff that everybody hears about anyway. They get the good stories. We're paid to write about the kind of events you would expect to see in a movie or a video game. We actually participate in the action sometimes. I don't know how many reporters in the past were handed a gun and told to provide covering fire when things got rough, but it almost seems commonplace these days. I guess what I'm getting at is, well, why the fuck are they sending me to Kessler Ridge, Wyoming? I never heard of the place, and while I understand we're an equal opportunity paper in terms of making ourselves available for any story from any town, big or small, I can't imagine finding something worthwhile in a town of 73, a number that's been steadily dwindling over the past 40 years. All I know is that they told me to speak with a man named Gregory Lassiter. Let's hope he has some skeletons in his closet. The last few guys who made a story out of Nowhereville, USA, were sent to work at Central. The others are still here, but they never get the really big stories. You show some potential, and you either step up or make way for the next promising writer. Kessler Ridge, Wyoming, population 73. What exactly are you hiding? And that is all I have for the original for tonight. I know it's not much. It wasn't quite that Brannigan, and it was close, similar, but not quite. But anyway, that's all I've got for that original one for the night, which I know it's not much, but that's about all I had written other than some ideas. So, moving along, I suppose I should read one or two more Russian fairy tales before we say goodnight for the evening. So allow me to get the music going again. Oh, itchy nose, itchy nose. Yes, so we have a little time left. Still a little time left. Horns. I will definitely read Horns to you, but that may be the only one. Ooh, the Armless Maiden is rather long. So yes, I will read Horns, and then we will call it an evening. Deal? Deal. Ooh. It really is good. Interesting what the flavor's like, too. Sorry for taking so long. Once, there was a laborer to whom God had given great strength. That was good timing on the start there. He learned that a dragon was haunting the king's daughter, and he boasted that he alone could destroy this terrible beast. The king's men heard his boasts, and they pressed him, "Go, laborer, heal the princess. If the ale is drawn, it must be drunk." So the laborer went to the king, not the kink, the king, and said, "I can heal the princess. What will I receive for my trouble?" The king was overjoyed and said, "I will give you the princess in marriage." The laborer asked for 7 ox hides, iron nuts, iron claws, and an iron hammer. He donned the 7 ox hides and the iron claws filled his pockets with the nuts, real ones and iron ones, took the big hammer in his hand, and went to the princess's room. The dragon flew to the princess. Upon seeing the labourer, he gnashed his teeth and said, "Why have you come here?" "For the same purpose as you," said the labourer, and remained sitting where he was, cracking nuts. The dragon saw that he could accomplish nothing by force, so he came over to the labourer and asked for some nuts. The labourer gave him the iron ones. The dragon tried to crack them with his teeth, and then spat them out. "Brother, your nuts are no good. Let us play a game of cards instead." "With pleasure, but for what stakes?" They agreed that he who lost would get a thrashing. They began to play, and the dragon lost. The labourer took his hammer and gave the dragon such a thrashing that he was almost stunned. "Now," said the dragon, "let us play for our skins. Whoever loses will have his skin torn off." The labourer lost. The dragon tore one ox hide off him. "Let us play another game," the dragon said. This time the dragon lost. The labourer immediately plunged his iron claws into the dragon's skin and tore it off. The dragon died on the spot. This is pretty brutal, isn't it? And it's got right into it. Right into it. When the king heard of this, he was overjoyed and married his daughter to the labourer. But the princess grew tired of living with a simple peasant. She ordered him to be taken to the woods and slain there. What a bitch! Her servants seized him, led him to the woods, but pitied him and did not kill him. The labourer wandered through the woods weeping. He met 3 men who were engaged in a dispute. Yeah, dang is right. The moment they came up to him, they began to implore him, "Please, good man, settle our dispute. We have found a pair of boots that walk, a flying carpet, and a magic tablecloth. How shall we divide them?" "This way. Whoever climbs on that oak first shall have them all." They foolishly consented and rushed to the tree. As soon as they had climbed up, the labourer donned the walking boots, sat on the flying carpet, and took the magic tablecloth and said, "I want to be near the king's city." "Ooh, you sneaky bastard." And in a trice he was there. He pitched a tent, ordered his tablecloth to spread a dinner, and invited the king and his daughter to visit him. They came to him, but they did not recognize him. He feasted them, gave them meat and drink, and led the princess to the flying carpet. Quietly took the tablecloth, pushed the princess onto the carpet, and ordered it to fly into a dark forest. In the forest, the labourer told the princess who he was. She began to caress and cajole him, and succeeded in beguiling him. As soon as he fell asleep, the princess seized the magic tablecloth, sat on the flying carpet, and she was gone. That wretched bitch! Again! The labourer awoke and saw that the princess, flying carpet, and the magic tablecloth were gone. Only his walking boots remained. He wandered and wandered through the woods. He felt hungry, spied 2 apple trees, plucked an apple from one of them, and began to eat it. Although he is a bit of a bastard, isn't he? He ate 1 apple, and a horn grew on his head. He ate another apple, and another horn grew on his head. He tried the apples of the other tree. At once his horns vanished, and he turned into a handsome youth. It's true, Morbida dragon. He filled his pocket with apples from both trees and went to the king's city. He walked by the palace and saw a scullery maid. One of the apple. "Do you want an apple, little dove?" She took one and ate it, and turned into such a beauty as no tongue can tell of, nor pen describe. The scullery maid went to the princess, and the princess gasped. "Buy some for me," she said. "Buy them without fail." The maid went out and bought some, but when the princess ate them, horns grew on her head. Serves her right. Next day the labourer came to the princess and told her that he could turn her back into a beauty. She implored him to do so. He told her to go into the bath chamber. There he undressed her and belaboured her so severely with iron rods that he was sure that she would remember it for a long time. Then he told her that he was her lawful husband. The princess repented, gave him back his flying carpet and his magic tablecloth, and the labourer gave her some of the good apples to eat, and they began to live happily and to prosper. I don't like the moral of this story. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it says if you have an unfaithful wife or a wife who charms you into doing things, beat her, and then you'll have a happy marriage. Either way, it says beat your wife if she's not, listening to you, and then you'll be happy. And that's not an okay message. No wonder progression takes so long. People write stories like that and tell them to their children. Well, anyway, that was quite a story to end on. But I suppose it is time to end. So we will do that. In truth, you are right. You are right. Beating could be kinky. Beating could be kinky. Perhaps that's why she didn't forget it, because it was of the kinky kind. She didn't want a simple peasant's lifestyle, so he beat her into submission. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Know what I mean, know what I mean. Anyway, enough with that. It's time for bed. I have not read all of these stories before, Grey Wolf. I've read a fair amount of them, but not all of them. They were part of a class, a Russian fairy tales class. So, yes, quite interesting. Anyway, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Don't forget, find me on Facebook if you would like. Brett Picorni, pretty easy to find. Storytime, 2 words, exclamation point at the end. 2 words, yeah, 2 words. That's the name of the group page on Facebook. YouTube is bpicorni1. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share so that all my other videos can be liked and subscribed to as well. Comment all you like, because, comments are pretty good for me and for my video. And Twitch, Brett Doesn't Game, all one word. Good night, everyone. I bid you adieu, and until next time, that being tomorrow, with more of Brandstone.